am compelled by Schlock.
Well, get ready to stuff your schlockings because we got a lot for you tonight. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and with me is Chris Anonymous. He is tweeting out the link live as we speak. The links have changed. You just gotta go to my Facebook page and watch it, baby. But anyway, we are coming back with this is our first Silent Night, Deadly Night of the season. It has to be Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3. Part Trace, we are going to do all of them except for a remake, I believe. Is that correct, Chris?
Yep. We're getting, of the original 5, we're getting all 5.
So in case you don't know, there's just a ton of holiday or Christmas horror movies out there. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to get through all of them unless we just buckle down and get to getting. So
it's the season.
So we've decided to return to the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. First one, pretty, I don't know if groundbreaking is the right word, but pretty different movie, noteworthy cult classic movie. The second one, how would you describe the second one, Chris?
It is a horrible movie, but the camp level is so amazing. And it's not even like a whole movie. It's like a half movie because it's a remix of the first movie. And right. I mean, I would say probably 40% of the footage of part 2 is just flashbacks to part 1.
It's just like 1.5.
Yeah.
It's got the DLC.
Yeah. But it's got that level of schlock of, I mean, just the meme and the garbage day. You can't beat that.
It is chocked full of magical one-liners that makes it worth revisiting anytime.
Yeah, I think the first movie is a solid horror movie that I enjoy. I mean, it's not perfect, but there's lots of things in it I love. Remember, we talked about the music, all sorts of good stuff. Second one, not so much, but it's got a lot of amazing one-liners.
It's special.
Movie. Yep.
So first one made in 1984, second one made in 1987, and then just 2 years later, they had to keep getting that sweet Silent Night money. 1989, they released Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 3, Better Watch Out.
Was this straight to video?
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
And I only say that because I couldn't find any box office information during my deep dive into web research of Wikipedia and IMDb. So I'm guessing that means it probably didn't go to a box office. But if you know, please let us know. Correct us if we're wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do know that this movie it had a little bit of a troubled production because it was really rushed. They rewrote the entire script within 1 week. I think the week they started filming or the week prior to filming.
Yeah, it shows.
They just cast it out and really went for something different. So that's all I really have for an intro. If you haven't figured it out by now, we are going to spoil this movie, and we'll probably spoil 1 and 2 as well. And then make predictions on the rest of them.
Go back and watch the old episodes.
We have part 1 and 2, and we will link them. I think up here. I think that's where you link things in the video, but we'll also put them down in our description.
There's a link
description area. Yeah.
And when my finger points at the link, click it.
Just click somewhere. See what happens. Go down the magic click hole. And while you're at it, make sure you click the like and subscribe button. We're getting some more subscribers as of late, and it is awesome. We're stoked on every person who does that. So thank you very much. the way we do things around here is we talk about the good, what we like, the bad, what we didn't like, and the schlock, just all of the weird, crazy stuff in these movies. But first, we like to talk about how they are connected elsewhere to other actors and movies with a little segment called Web of Schlock.
Web of Schlock. It's short, but there's a couple key things. The director, who also played one of the Santa Clauses in it, Monty Hellman, he had directed a couple. He had started out kind of in Roger Corman's camp, and he was one of the uncredited directors on The Terror, along with a dozen other people. That famous Corman horror movie. And then in the 70s,
I've never seen The Terror, but I believe they're watching that movie at some point during this movie.
Yes.
In the gas station.
Then he did a movie in the 60s called Ride the Whirlwind as a Western. He did another one called The Shooting. Both of them were fairly well reviewed. Jack Nicholson was in some of them. Like, he did some things. He did a movie called Two-Lane Blacktop in the 70s, which is considered like this kind of cult classic road movie. He had some movies under his belt, and then this came along, and I don't really know how he got involved with it, but yeah, he's kind of a cool dude. Then we have actors. So here's where we start getting kind of fun with this. I mean, let's name him.
That I love very much.
Bill Moseley.
Yep. Top, baby.
Right? I mean, he's in how many zombie movies? Rob Zombie movies?
Most of them?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, he's a very, very fun actor. Yeah, just it's always enjoyable to see him. And I like seeing actors that I've kind of followed for years, but like their earlier work. Like, you're like, oh, okay, I know him from like the early 2000s zombie films, but like seeing him in the 80s.
So you know some of the other actors in this. You recognize them.
Yes.
I feel like I recognize the lieutenant.
We're getting
but that was
into
the
him.
only other person.
Yeah, it's the lieutenants who I want to talk about. Robert Culp. I love this dude. There's not one thing I can name. I mean, he was in some classic TV shows. I Spy in the 60s, The Greatest American Hero in the 80s. But like he was the president in the Pelican Brief. But I mean, he's been in like just tons and tons of TV, like 80s, 90s, name a TV show. He's probably had like one episode. He's one of those faces that you just see all the time.
Yeah. So if you've watched television for any extent of time, you've probably seen
him. Yeah. And he's got a delivery and just his face, everything about him. I love this dude.
That meme of the guy that's going, well, is that him? Is that from Animal House? What's that from?
I'm not sure. I'm not up on the memes as I should be.
Okay. It's the well meme.
Well,
someone check into that for us.
Yeah, can we have like, we will pay someone like 25 cents to be our be our meme reporter. Meme. Anytime we need like meme research.
Meme search. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for that. You know, the lead, Laura, she was in like 2 other movies.
Okay.
Like 3 other movies. She was in right after, same year as this, she was in Best of the Best. Did you ever see that?
I didn't.
The martial arts competition movie.
Okay.
Like that was that was like a B movie, like subgenre of action films in like the late 80s, early 90s.
That's got to come back. Well, I have a very important question for you. Is she actually blind?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I'm always very impressed with actors that can act blind without their like eyes covered.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
I'd be looking everywhere.
Blind. But
I'd be looking directly into the camera.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, everyone else, they've had like little bit parts here and there. And it's just, it's interesting to see Like the lead guy, Bill, went on to do tons of horror films, and the lead woman, who I thought she did really well. I enjoyed watching her in this.
What about her brother?
Yeah, he was in some TV.
Oh, I just realized who he looks like now. He looks like Billy from Stranger Things.
He does, yeah. Eric DeRay is his name. He was in Twin Peaks. He was in Starship Troopers. He was in Lost Highway.
Okay, so he's been in some big ticket movies. All right.
Yeah. He was in a Ted Bundy movie in 2002. He was in Twin Peaks in 2014 when they did a reboot or whatever. So yeah, okay. A lot of them have little bit parts, but yeah.
Well,
but man, would you want to get into good, or you want me to get into good?
I'll do good and bad, mostly because I normally start, I think, but also I have good, but it's pretty vague. They're pretty vague goods because I'm trying really hard to decide if this is the best Silent Night, Deadly Night so far. Controversial view, I know, but I feel like compared to its predecessor, the use of flashbacks were a lot more. They were a lot more better.
They were a lot more better. Yeah,
but
they didn't take up 40% of the movie.
But yeah, I mean, you could pretty much probably watch this movie on its own.
Yes.
With those flashbacks, and you would understand that Ricky is the baby in the car. You would think he's the little kid who I don't remember our main character from way back in part 1. I don't remember his name. Tommy? Is that it?
I don't know.
Someone fact check that for us. Anyway, so they just condense it so much more and get you the important stuff and get out. Billy, that's right. Old Bill. So I think they did that a lot better, more, I hesitate to say tasteful, but more tasteful. I think the acting, again, compared to its predecessor, was probably just a lot better. And I think I'm totally going to contradict myself with bad, but I think the structure was a lot better. Like I had an easier time following it because I'll move into my bad. It's a pretty simple movie. And a big bad that I have is that a lot of this movie is just getting there, right? It's our main heroine. She is getting there, getting to grandma's. She's got to make a couple pit stops along the way, but she's getting there. And then once Ricky escapes from the hospital, he's just getting there. And then we see the cop and the doc. They are just getting there. They're driving and they're talking to each other about like the nature of evil or something like that. And I felt like it was kind of, is this a road movie? Is this a sort of road movie? It's a lot of people just driving and talking about things. And they have good exposition dump, but they also have very bad exposition dump, I feel like. And ultimately, with all of this getting there, I think that once Ricky finally gets to grandma's house, he gets there. Once the kids finally get to grandma's house and Ricky comes and attacks them, I think it's very anticlimactic. And we got a picture of that if we can get it pulled up. It's when the girlfriend, she's standing by the door, his hand busts through the door and like starts to strangle her. And it made Megan jump when we were watching it together. But I just thought this was such a lame scene. It should have been a really cool scene, but there's like no music going during it. Our main lead, our main female lead, she's just like, he's coming to get us. Nothing can stop him. like there's no sense of urgency. And then the hand busts through the door again. The door must be made out of foam board or something, which probably was. And it just looks silly. And for me, the scene fizzles out. And those are my big bads for this movie. What do you got? Are you going to refute me on my good and bad? I think you are.
I am. Yeah. I don't think this is the best of the series. I think the first one is still the best. I think you're right. This is 100% better than part 2.
Mm-hmm.
This part 2 is just a mess. It's a complete mess. But I think I would rather watch part 2 than watch this. Even though it's a total mess and a horrible movie, just the camp level and the craziness and the places they take it, it's more fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
There are things in this movie there are things in this movie I did like. I like the detective a lot. I loved the road trip part of it where he's just talking and he's like trying to sell the cop or trying to sell the doctor something. And then he has some great lines about like, you do something with snakes and I step on snakes and like just,
you save snakes and I step on them, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And like and then like he gets the vehicle stolen from him. Like he's trying to take. I
think we got a picture of the cop and Doc that we can put up. Yeah, the guy, he was just full of one-liners, and I was like, where did this guy come from? It's like
he
30
stills
minutes into the movie, and now
he stills the movie for the scene and a half he's in. Like I wanted this to be the whole movie. I like that the lead character is blind. I think that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
The other thing I like is that this is a different version of Ricky. He's been rebuilt for better or worse. This is Frankenstein Ricky. This is zombie Ricky. So it's really cool to take like the horror icon, the villain from the previous film, and it's the same guy, but his method of attacking is different. Now, I mean, he's using knives and weapons, and that's all the same. But before, it was very serial killer. Well, it was his brother in the first film, but he's
a psychopath. Whereas here, he's that force of nature.
Correct. And so that's really interesting, revisiting the same character, but through story mechanics of like rebuilding him and waking him up and all that, that he's a different type of monster. It's the same monster, but a different monster. I thought that was really cool. I'm hoping in part 4 that we get a different iteration of Ricky yet again. Like that would be a really cool thing to play with. Like, and I haven't seen that in a lot of horror movies. So I'm latching on to that. I really like that. And I don't know if it was a total accident how they did it, but it didn't feel.
I have a feeling part 4 doesn't have anything to do with the previous ones, just by reading the description.
It might not. But I think like when you take like Halloween's or Friday the 13th or any of your classic horror movies that have like a really huge number of sequels, it's the same bad guy every time. He may be slightly different, but he's the same, right?
Jason is always more or less a walking zombie.
Correct.
I mean,
it'd be really cool to take this idea of like, okay, in the first film, he's a psychopath, but then he gets killed and he's in a coma. Mm-hmm. And because of that, he has got brain damage and they rebuild him. So he's kind of like this zombie Frankenstein thing. You know, it would be cool to see like an evolution through like the different monsters and tropes of horror.
Yeah. What do you think the next, if you had to predict or like what you would like to see, what do you think the next evolution of Ricky should be?
Man, that's tough. I mean, if he actually
where can they take him?
If he actually died in this, he could be a ghost, or he could be put into a different body. Or
what if he meets the real Santa and he like steals his power?
That would be awesome. Yeah. So that's my good. You're right. The structure is more sound, but it's also a lot more boring. It's by the numbers. So you're right. It works, but it doesn't blow me away. That's why. Bad footage from part 1, and they didn't use it too much, and they used it correctly, but I still had a bitter taste in my mouth from part 2. Even a year later, I'm like,
how many times do we have to watch that Santa murder scene?
Yep. I'm like, we get it. The pace of this movie I thought was really slow. Again, you had talked about that where it like this really like getting there. And sometimes getting there can be really enjoyable to watch. This, it wasn't. I liked that the main character was blind. I'm on the fence about how she was psychic. It feels very of late 80s. Like that feels like a trope that like horror movies were like, she's psychic and she's secretly linked to the killer.
We got like Carrie, that psychic stuff, but we also have, I think Friday the 13th movie. I forget what number, but I think it's New
4.
Blood.
I can't remember, but one of them, there's a psychic connection. Isn't there a psychic connection in one of the Freddy Kruegers, or am I totally out of whack there?
I think they're all like kind of psychically connected.
Yeah, and there was a couple others. Like if you take like a 10-year period from like 85 to 95, you're going to find a lot of horror movies.
Yeah.
With psychic final girls that are connected to the killer. And maybe there's 2 and I'm just blowing it out of proportion in my mind, but it feels like
well, I think we should bring it back. Yeah.
I think you could do a lot of cool things with it. I don't think they did that here. Like what a fun thing to explore. She's psychically connected to the killer. So all they have here is that he can kind of find where she's at.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't give her psychic weapon was like her grandma, because her grandma was psychic also, which they don't really play up.
Yeah, and then she says, use your powers, trust in them. But then she just holds up a broken, spoiler alert, broom, and he falls onto it. Like, how's that your psychic powers?
Yeah, that was really silly. Like, I wish they would have done a lot more with it. I wish they would have given us some more info that like, they'd been working on this guy, this coma patient for a long time. And there was like no.
Well, and I thought there might be like an in dreams battle, like, because they were psychically connected. So if they both got knocked out, she could fight him, kind of a Freddy Krueger type thing.
Yeah. So they started with a cool thing, but it just really didn't.
Yeah. And we're kind of already into schlock,
let's schlock it.
So the other thing is her blindness, I thought was not quite utilized as well as it could be. Like, I really like when she knocks the lights out in the basement and says, now we're on equal terms.
But there's like all these other lights.
But there's all these other lights. And I'm like, you could do a really, really cool scene because they weren't on even ground. If it was in total dark, she's used to that environment. Mm-hmm. So she would have a slight advantage.
It's like in the Book of Eli, where he like fights in the dark.
Yep.
I love that movie.
It's a good movie. Yeah. So there are so many missed opportunities. Schlock.
I got to bring up for Schlock, Mean Santas. So we mentioned earlier, the director played one of the Santas. He plays the mean Santa in this, and he actually has like some pretty good lines in it. Like Santa Claus don't bring presents to vegetables or something like that. And
yeah,
he's like taking a drink. And I'm wondering, like, why is this Santa Claus going and razzing this coma patient? Like, what?
Yeah,
where are all of these mean Santas coming from?
Yeah, even if he's a sad alcoholic, that doesn't correlate to like going and making fun of and teasing a comatose person. Like, it just doesn't. There's no believability there.
And yeah, so that's the director. I think they like filled this scene in later, and so when he gets killed, it's a reshoot.
Yeah, because he didn't like the performance of the original guy who did it because he thought he was too nice. So it felt weird killing him. So he was trying to make him meaner, trying to make him meaner so that when he was killed, you were okay with it.
Don't you want in a scary movie, don't you want the nice people to be killed? That way the audience like gets invested, like
like
in who's going to get killed next.
you want a mixture of both, but definitely in the beginning you want, like toward the end, you want the jerk friend of the final girl to get his or her comeuppance.
Right.
But in the beginning, you want innocent people because that sucks you in, because it
ups the stakes.
It ups the stakes, and it makes you, the viewer who assumes yourself to be an innocent victim, partake in it more. You're like, oh, but for the grace of God, I could have been a mean Santa who got killed.
Well, I would be interested to know exactly how it was shot and what kind of crew they had, because his death, definitely a director, not an actor. When Ricky gets up, it's all POV, it's all point of view, and the camera is coming towards him. And I'll see if I can recreate it. Hey, well, I didn't mean nothing by it. I didn't mean that broccoli gag. And
that is the worst bit of acting in the whole movie.
And he's like,
this
is better.
Something.
We have to keep it.
If Hitchcock can have a cameo in all his movies, then I can have a cameo in all my movies.
This is indeed the level of psycho.
I'm Monty Hellman.
So we talked about Ricky potentially coming back. I really hope he comes back, and I really hope all these movies are connected by that thread in some way. Maybe she becomes psycho.
Yeah, like he could have transferred his like conscious into hers, like through a psychic connection, and like taken over her body. That's a cool idea.
But so did you catch at the end when they're hauling the body out of the house? And we have a picture of that. The paramedics, they say, if we get him to the ER, maybe we can get lucky and save this guy.
Was that him or the brother?
And I think that's the big question. It's is it Ricky? I mean,
they both took chest wounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Ricky has gone into that sort of invulnerable serial killer space that Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees enter into. So it could potentially be him, or it could be the brother. And it's I don't know if I like this or not. Do you like it? It's an ambiguous ending to where, like, if they didn't want to continue with Ricky, they could give our characters a semi-happy ending by having the brother survive, or they could set us up for the sequel. I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
I liked it. Yeah, there was lots about the ending that I actually liked, like the last, like, and then like when Robert Culp says Merry Christmas to the final girl, and then it cuts to we have the Happy New Year, we can bring it up. So then it's just Ricky staring at the camera and dressed up
in a tuxedo
and a Happy New Year. Like this is completely out of the world of the film. This is super meta.
Right. It makes it sound like the sequel is going to be the New Year or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Or it's just like, it's just a funny gag for the film, for the moviegoer.
Yeah.
Right. And I also want to bring up the other schlock thing that I love is the brain helmet.
Yeah. Let's just take a moment to appreciate that they created a character. Like I thought it would be a one-off because I wasn't sure at the very beginning what was going on. But the fact that they stuck to this gag, the brain helmet, and it's got the blood in it. Yep.
And like he has a stocking cap, but like you can see it sticking out of the stocking cap, and it's got the green light in the back. And like, I love that a hitchhiker picks him up. Yeah. I think this is a beautiful shot.
It is. It's very well framed and very well lit.
I think he's actually a good director. I just think he had a horrible script and no time and no budget. And
that to me looks like a 90s music video. That looks like a Beck music video or something.
Yeah, it makes me want to like start a 90s alt band right there. The Rickies.
Well, so speaking of music, was it the first one that you really dug the music in it?
I loved the music in the first one. Yeah.
What did you think of the music in this one? I wasn't particularly blown away or noticing it or anything, but the music that plays over the end credits, I was like, this is actually pretty cool. This is like a weird 6/8 like super syncopated song.
There were a couple really cool moments of music in it, punctuated by a lot of just blah. But there were some really cool musical moments. It didn't have the same Christmassy. I mean, they hired that woman to write these great Christmas songs and silly Christmas songs for that first movie. I mean, they just went all in, and like I love that soundtrack. That's probably one of the things that takes that first movie and keeps it in the number one slot for me is that soundtrack. But yeah, the end title sequence is kind of groovy. There were a couple other things in it that were really cool. And then there's just schlocky moments, and I know we're probably running out of time, but I knew you wanted to talk about it and I wanted to talk about it. The
Talk
head,
dirty to
severed
me.
head. Yeah, talk dirty to me. So, yeah, if you're watching this live or tomorrow, it's a severed head, so be warned.
Too late.
graphic.
It's up. It's here.
It's up. It's here.
So when we were watching this, we were like, okay, he's gotta like put his dead body next to it, right? And we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then finally they cut back to it, and his head is there, and we're like, finally.
Yeah, this was a great sight gag. This was probably one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. I liked them when he's talking to her. I think he's a good actor. Whoever's on the phone, they had a fun dynamic. And she starts to talk dirty to him. He's like, hang on, I got to go. I love this whole set. That Pepsi can, everything screams like 80s to me, which is... love looking at like all the little details of like those old movies that you're like,
yeah. Well, so I really enjoyed this gag. I'm glad that they did it. I'm glad that they paid that off. But I was really disappointed because I feel like based on the first two movies, they should have had Ricky come in and pick up the phone while the girl is on the other end talking dirty, and he should have held it up to his ear and said, naughty. And then hung it up. Like we didn't get, I don't think, a single naughty throughout this. And that from the first film, that is like what sticks out to me the most. Whenever anybody brings up Silent Night, Deadly Night, I'm just like, naughty.
Does Ricky do it in the second film? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. I think he does.
Because it's Billy, it's his brother in the first film. But yeah, it's an iconic
I think it
thing
carries
that
over.
It's a missed opportunity that they didn't have. They should have done that throwback.
If you're gonna have a Santa killer, like that, that's just like the perfect thing, right? Or no, it was Punish. I think in the second one he said naughty. In the first one he said punish. Right.
I think
someone fact check us on that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, whatever he said, it should have been a callback. And then she could have been like, well, yeah, I am naughty. That's what you like, or something like that. Like you could have had a really, really stinger moment there.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, a lot of those, well, it comes down to the writing. It also comes down to, rehearsals and how much time you have on set to like do different things.
Yeah.
And this movie was rushed, so you don't really get those fun little Easter eggs that you tie everything together.
Yeah, for sure. So, have we run through all of our pictures? Have we said all that we have to say?
I think we had the Santa in Dreams. We haven't gone to that yet.
Oh, and you did not decide yet if you like this or not.
I do like this. This was
great set.
Yeah, it's a great set. It's a cool image. I liked she was running in this white room in her dreams, comes around the corner, and you get the Santa, and then he's holding the knife. This is when I didn't know what the movie was going to be yet. I didn't know if Ricky was going to be in it or if he was going to be comatose and there'd be another killer.
It was new and full of possibilities.
Right, and this image really set those possibilities up for me, and it didn't quite deliver, but I like this.
Yeah. Well, like we said, this movie, it had some production problems, and it got rewritten in a week. And if you just so happen to want to see what this movie could have been, well, then I have some very special news for you, because next week we are doing part 4. I believe the Initiation is what it's called. And
Yes.
apparently that script is based on the original script for part 3. So we'll see what that's all about. I really hope that
It
they're
has-
connected.
The lead is one of my favorite actors of all time,
Who's that?
Clint Howard,
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got the Ice Cream Man back.
playing Ricky.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I will see you
Fingers
next week.
crossed on that. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We have been compelled by Schlock, and we will see you next week.
Schlock.
Bye.
Schlocky, schlock, schlock. Schlock. Schlock, schlocky, schlock, schlock. Schlock. I am compelled by schlock. Compelled by schlock. Impelled by schlock. Wait, no.